I'm gonna say right now, this is going to be a very short video, unless on the off chance I can think of something I can prattle on about for a while. There hasn't really been a whole lot that's happened this month. Really, the main thing is, I've had to go in for a lot of different blood tests. The first one I went to this month was just to kind of see if maybe my last blood test was a fluke, seeing that my testosterone levels outdid my estrogen levels. So, went to the same lab again, performed the test, and yeah, pretty similar results. Although my T went down slightly, but it's still too bloody high. So, the doctor issued this more thorough blood test. It's something that's going to take at least a week and a half for me to get the results on. But the other tests I went through, it only really took about maybe a day or two, so we'll see where it goes, because the next step from this is if this test reveals that I have high testosterone still, I'm gonna have to go out to see the doctor in person for a very interesting series of tests. Something that I really have no idea as to what it entails, but it involves me driving an hour at least to see the doctor, so there's that much. But I'm pretty confident that the test is going to still show that I'm having a high T level because it's something that I've noticed a lot of. There are moments I started getting acne again. I'm really horny again, and I don't like it. When I'm horny, I feel like I just lose control. But at least this time around, I feel like I have a little bit of control over it. Not much, but a lot better than when I was going through the first puberty in junior high school. And even then, there's other subtle things as well, like body hair growth. Like, when it came to shaving my legs, I only really had to do it like maybe once a week. Now it's got to a point where I have to shave them just about every 3 days or so. Thankfully, it's the winter season, so I can get away with just wearing pants and not shaving them for a while, but still, it just annoys me so. It's a lot like how I would describe how I felt before I knew I was trans. It was never about the clothes, it was just the person wearing the clothes, and it's still very much the same thing. I don't like feeling hairy. I don't like smelling like a man. Well, thankfully that one isn't as prevalent anymore, but still, there's just a lot of subtle features that I'm noticing or reversing. I'm just happy that my face looks the same at least. The other big thing I can think about. I had a pretty close call and I'm losing another friend actually. Like I say, there is a reason I don't like to talk politics, and it's really the one subject I can think of where, even when both people are in complete agreement, there is still quite a fierce argument that happens. And it's even worse when you have differing opinions, and well, it almost seemed like I lost another friend. They almost cut me out before I could get a chance to apologize. And, well, I put another one in a rather horrible predicament. They kind of took the role as a mediator between me and them to be able to try to patch this out. And thankfully, I think we're back on good terms again. I mean, we're speaking again every so often, but still a little afraid to approach them with DMs and whatnot. But at the same time, this did create a very interesting topic when I went to my usual therapy meetings. And my big thing is, whenever something like this happens, I'm just like, okay, I gotta stop putting my faith in people. I gotta stop trying to tell people these things because it just only ends in disaster. However, my therapist kind of put it in the perspective. It's almost like the equivalent of when a little kid hides under the bed when a lightning storm happens. You want to feel safe, but that's not really a way you can live your life. You can't constantly feel safe all the time, and I do wish that was the case. There were very few times growing up I felt like I was safe. I think that very much reflects my relationships that I've formed as an adult. But the main takeaway I remember from it was the idea that I'm not responsible for how somebody feels. I know that seems a bit like a cold thing, but because somebody is angry at me doesn't necessarily mean it's my fault. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it as well, but it was something that I found very assuring. The idea that, like, I don't owe people, or at least something in that vein. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense because I'm not even understanding it. Was one last thing I wanted to mention. So, you may remember in my last video, I was describing a bit of a shopping spree that I went through, and that is where I picked up the shirt. It was a very eye-opening experience because I didn't know women could wear graphic tees. I live off of graphic tees. And the idea that now I can wear them as a woman, it feels great. It's affirming in both ways. I can be myself and be myself. Maybe I should try to explain that a little better. So, I can be a woman, and I can still have the same interests that I had before I knew I was trans. And one of them is classic cars. Now, on this subject of clothes, so this month I worked on a very extensive dub comparison video. Now, in the past, I never really wanted to show my face. The most you would ever see are my hands, kind of pointing at various things. And then whenever I would talk about various clips, the screen would go completely black. But I kind of figured it'd be just as much effort to edit me talking in front of the camera as opposed to having all these blank sections. And so I went for it. And a friend brought up a very interesting point. He wondered why, when it came to these videos, that I would dress up in some sort of costume. I always went for a more male-coded costume. Well, there's quite a few reasons for that. First, I have a lot more men's clothes in the house. Buying a whole new wardrobe is a very expensive and time-consuming affair. On top of that, I just don't want to give up the things I like. For instance, the graphic tees. And the ones I have that aren't women's, they have things on them that I very much appreciate. Like my favorite hot sauce, game systems, things from a favorite show. These are things I do not have in women's sizes. And I don't want to get rid of them either. And on top of that, there's a few rather unique things, like I like to go to thrift stores all the time, and there are some interesting items that I picked up over the years, and I don't really feel like getting rid of them just yet. So that's the first reason. The second reason, at least in this particular dub comparison I was talking about, is that the women's costumes were very, very complex. Like, they were something that I would basically have to go out and scour a whole bunch of different stores just to do a little bit of a cosplay. Well, instead, I still have most of the props and the costumes that made sense already, but they're more male-fitting. And that kind of brings up an interesting point I didn't think of is, well, it's ironic, but I'm pretty slow to change. I guess a part of me doesn't want to give up some of these things. And on top of that, for the sake of coats as well as different pieces of attire, I find that they fit in better ways for me. And I guess maybe one of the best examples I could think of is pants. Obviously, women's pants were not designed for the very thing that I really want to get rid of. And so, sometimes it's just nice to have a pair of pants that fit, even if they don't hug my curves like women's pants do. This is surprisingly a deep and complicated thing to talk about, and this may raise the length of the video a little bit. Maybe this is a common thing that other trans people have to go to, but it's the idea that, like, you kind of have to say goodbye to a part of your old self to say hello to your new self. Or maybe I could just blame society like a lot of other people do. That was always the big thing. It was just more about me wanting to be myself. That was really the main point of it. And if I have to somehow deny parts of myself to be myself, it's almost a bit of an oxymoron, isn't it? It's a very difficult thing, and it's probably something I can prattle on a lot in the comments down below, but as of now, that's about all I have off the top of my head. Oh, except for one very big thing. So, next month, I'm going in for my consultation for bottom surgery. I am very excited, but I am also very nervous at the same time. It's quite a drive, and part of me is worried that something is going to prevent this meeting. Talk about once bitten and twice shy. The last surgeon I went to retired on me right after I went through the consultation. And this one is canceled on me already. And, well, I guess in the back of my mind there's still this idea that how in the world is this even possible? Is this possible? Am I just dreaming all this? But from all the research I've done, I know this is very much a thing that can happen. It's a viable option. You just need to see a specialist, obviously, because not everyone is going to need this kind of surgery, like people that need to have like an appendix or a gallbladder removed, or maybe a hernia repaired. This is something that's going to be more uncommon, and as such, there's going to be less people that are able to do it. It's kind of interesting. In my friend group, I'm always the optimist. But yet outside of the friend group, I'm very much a pessimist. Like, it's the idea that I've just gotten so used to the suffering that not having it in my life, it feels like something else is going to happen to compensate. But maybe that's just a me thing, or maybe this is a popular thing in the trans experience. But that is all I've got. If there's anything else you would like to talk about, aside from politics, feel free to leave a comment down below. Until next time, be yourself, no matter who that is.